Prashant Kishor's meetings with the Gandhi family has sparked massive speculation. Is he stitching an anti-Modi alliance ahead of 2024? Or is he lobbying for Sharad Pawar to be president? Or is PK ka haath now Congress ke saath? Political grapevine is a buzz that the master poll strategist has been offered to join the Congress to revamp the party. So what's cooking between PK and the Congress? India Today's Political Bureau with our lead story tonight.
Months earlier, he scripted Mamta's win in Bengal, only to drop the bombshell of political sannyas.
So I will quit, I will cease to do what I have been doing until now. It's just that I'm glad God has been kind that I'm quitting, I'm able to quit after the victory.
But Prashant Kishor is bang in the centre stage again, with back-to-back high-profile political huddles with opposition stalwarts. Thrice with NCP Supremo Sharad Pawar. Then one big one with Punjab Chief Minister Amarinder Singh. And one crucial meeting with the Gandhis. And two hush-hush ones with Stalin and Naveen Patnaik. The meetings hold immense significance amid approaching state polls, with three possible ramifications. Possibility 1. Mission Rescue Congress. A revived Congress mission. The grand old party is constantly on downhill since 2014, tasting successive defeats and facing leadership rot. While meeting Gandhis, Kishor is said to have given a revival blueprint.
The road ahead for the grand old party is certainly not easy. The immediate challenge is to do well in the upcoming assembly polls. But before that, the party leadership needs to find answers to the vexing internal issues.
Possibility 2. Anti-Modi front. Kishor may also be stitching together a front to take up the formidable challenge of Narendra Modi. A possible 2024 front taking baby steps during the opposition meet at NCP Chief Sharad Pawar's residence last month.
ममता जी है वहाँ, शरद पवार साहब है, चंद्रा बाबू है, लालू यादव जी है, अखिलेश जी है, नेता कौन, ये पहले तय होना चाहिए. आज मोदी जी के सामने अगर आपको लड़ना है तो एक चेहरा चाहिए.
Possibility 3. Pawar play for president. Political circles are abuzz over Kishor lobbying for NCP chief Sharad Pawar as the next president. Crunching electoral college math, which he thinks can install an opposition-backed president if Odisha CM Naveen Patnaik comes on board. Pawar himself has said that reports of him contesting presidential polls are baseless. BJP seems ready for the PK challenge.
इनको क्या है, अभी नए नए सेफोलॉजिस्टों को ठेका देने की कोशिश करेंगे. अब जनता पे तो विश्वास रह नहीं गया. इस तरह के जो है वो किराए के जो है वो रणनीतिकारों की तलाश चल रही है कांग्रेस में.
Can the opposition's Chanakya prove a potent match for Narendra Modi and BJP? With Anand Patel in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
So what are PK and the Congress up to? Is Prashant Kishor going to join the grand old party? Will he have the kind of freedom that would be required to restructure the Congress? Or is this all just a pipe dream and in the end there'd be nothing much to show for it? Joining me on this one question that's engaging everyone who tracks Indian politics very deeply, I want to welcome first India's foremost political commentator, my colleague Rajdeep Sardesai. Rajdeep, welcome. Our National Affairs editor Rahul Srivastav with us, senior journalist, editor, author Swati Chaturvedi. We've got Rashid Kidwai, who tracks the ins and outs of the Congress party, knows every leaf that's moving in the Congress headquarters and elsewhere. And last but not least, someone who's been in the Congress, understands what works and also what doesn't. Now BJP's spokesperson Khushbu Sundar. So welcome everyone. I want to go to Rajdeep first on whether PK is indeed joining the Congress. Is it hawa mein hai? Is it a khayali pulao? Or is there actually a solid biryani cooking?
No, look, at the moment it is, to use one word, premature. In fact, there haven't been, interestingly, just one meeting. This meeting came into the media eye. My sources tell me there have been 3 meetings. And in all 3 meetings, all 3 members of the Gandhi family have been present, which is significant. But please appreciate, this is the grand old party. You know, this is a party that works at its own pace. To therefore expect, breaking news, first day, first show, or even third day, third show, that Prashant Kishor is joining the Congress or is going to now become the Chanakya of the Congress, I would say is premature. What is true is that this is a party desperate now to find a way from the ICU state in which it is at the moment. Unable to take decisions, unable to sort of revive itself. Facing election defeat after election defeat, an organization which is comatose, a leadership where we don't know, who really is in charge. Rahul Gandhi, some would call a non-playing captain at the moment. Sonia Gandhi is still there, but is semi-retired. Priyanka Gandhi meets Navjot Sidhu for a few hours. So there's an element of confusion both at the top and within the rank and file. In that scenario, along comes Prashant Kishor, fresh from his Bengal victory, meets the Gandhis, has earlier met Sharad Pawar. So naturally, sets all this speculation. And this is silly season before the parliament session. So Rahul, you've decided in silly season, could there be something more? My sense is premature, but yes, given the state of the Congress, nothing can be ruled out that in the next few months, building up, and I would say beyond UP, not so much UP, but beyond UP from what I gather into 2022, where remember Rahul, there will be 6 elections, Gujarat, Himachal, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan. In all these states, and even Telangana, which could be fast forwarded, the Congress will be the main opposition or in power. So there the possibilities exist of building the organization, creating a momentum going into 2024. But my own feeling at the moment is that these are straws in the wind. I'm not sure which way the wind will blow. Prashant himself has in the past been once bitten by the Congress. He's clearly not twice shy, still willing to try, because I think he recognizes one important part, and that's my final point, that the Congress is a brand which is national. So while you can be with Mamta in Bengal, Jagan in Andhra, be with an Aam Aadmi party, or advise Amarinder personally, if you have to mount a sustained challenge to the BJP in 2024, you need a revival of the Congress.
Swati Chaturvedi, you've put out some very specific details about Prashant Kishor's plan. Tell us what you know. Tell us why you think that this is not a khayali pulao, this is a solid political pulao cooking at this time, and that Prashant Kishor could potentially even join the Congress. Swati.
Thanks, Rahul. Now, let me start with a couple of points. First of all, I have reported that the Gandhis have made him an offer. The Congress party wants him on board. That is something which is absolutely confirmed. Now, what is not confirmed, which you cannot confirm, is whether Mr. Kishor is going to get on board or not. Mr. Kishor has come up with his own plan for the Congress party, which involves setting up a 9-member committee to advise the Congress president, where he wants people like Raghuram Rajan, Rajiv Bajaj, people who have stellar reputations, who are big brands, bold-faced names. And he also wants to do elections in the Congress from the block level onwards. Now, these are all very sane ideas. And from what I've been told by my sources, are that the Gandhis have actually agreed to all of this and desperately do want him on board. Now, I was hearing Rajdeep earlier. Now, all the things that he said about the Congress, clearly, if we know it, if we keep saying it again and again, the Congress is in crisis, the Congress is in ICU. Clearly, the party also is quite aware of this. It's pointless to keep repeating that. We're looking at Prashant Kishor. I think they're looking at the future of how to basically re-energize this party, which is since 2014 found itself without any moorings. Now, Prashant Kishor also has a very successful track record, but do remember that he's been in politics before. He was a Janata Dal United vice president. He fell out with Nitish Kumar, but his inclination to be in politics is very clear. In fact, now he says he's given up this space, which is advocacy, and is very, very clear that he wants a political role. Now, there is a bit of a fit here. And that is all I've reported. What I've reported is the offer. What Prashant Kishor does with the offer, what his bigger plans are, which they've actually said yes to, is, something that we'll see what happens.
but it's not quite as simple as that, Rashid Kidwai, because I know on good authority that Prashant Kishor doesn't have the highest opinion of Rahul Gandhi, that in 2017 when Prashant Kishor was advising the Congress campaign in that joint fight with the Samajwadi Party, he felt that Rahul Gandhi would agree on something a particular day, next morning somebody else would come and tell him something, he'd change his mind, and he found that very frustrating to work with, because he's used to working with leaders like Narendra Modi, leaders like Mamata Banerjee or Nitish Kumar, who are a one-point shop. You go to them, you have a conversation, you thrash out a strategy, and that's it. It's not as if the strategy can change based on who came and spoke to your principal last. Given the fact that he's only been a consultant, given also the fact that he says he doesn't want to do advocacy any longer, do you believe that space is being created for Prashant Kishor to come on board and formally join the Congress, Rashid?
I think, Rahul, from Prashant Kishor's point of view, there are 2-3 objectives are there. One is to, make his, for instance, Punjab, Amarinder Singh, make him kind of politically relevant. And second part is, of course, the national elections, where he wants, half of half, in the sense that, the non-NDA, non-Congress parties would take care of half of 272 Lok Sabha seat margin, and the other half should be filled by the Congress party, where the Congress and BJP are in direct contest. He's quite sure of the first half that non-NDA regional party is doing well, but he's not too sure about Congress. Reviving Congress sounds very good, but it's a very difficult job. It is something that Sonia has not been able to do. It's something Rahul has not been able to do. It is something Priyanka is struggling with. So to expect, and it will not bring any dividends. If Congress is revived, how will it help? As long as Congress is not winning 100 plus Lok Sabha seats in 2024. So it's a mixed bag. From my understanding, the meetings that we are talking about, first of all, it was that Captain Amarinder Singh may not contest, the assembly elections, and this is pretty sensational. If he doesn't contest, is Congress in a position to, back Sidhu all the way? I mean, as a chief ministerial phase or something like that. So this is something which is a difficult thing that needs to be that perhaps has been discussed and sorted out. Second step is about opposition unity. There is no disagreement. Third part, what you are talking about is about possibility of PK joining the Congress. He can be a very good general secretary in charge of elections, but as Rajdeep had highlighted, see, in Congress there are just too many wheels within wheels. It's very easy for Mr. Prashant Kishor to come in. It will be very difficult to function, or for that matter, to get out. In 2016, we have seen in UP, same thing had happened. So I think if he's thinking about it, I mean, he's a wise man to do so.
Okay, Khushbu Sundar, you've been in the Congress. The Congress does need a radical shake-up. And it's very clear, if you let things be the way they are, the Congress will keep sinking and fading towards oblivion. Do you believe that Prashant Kishor could come in with new energy, new vigor, new ideas, and try and shake things up at the grand old party? Could it work? Could he pull it off?
Nothing can work for Congress, Rahul. Unfortunately, when you talk about the grand old party, I think it's just remained as an old party. There's nothing grand about the party at the moment. And looking at the way it's been sinking deeper and deeper, with people leaving the sinking ship, I don't think the party will be able to revive. Prashant Kishor coming into the party, in what way is it going to help? Is Prashant Kishor going to be the face of Congress? Is the Congress ready to hand over the reins of the party to Prashant Kishor? What role Prashant Kishor is going to play if he joins Congress? So many things, so many questions. Is Rahul Gandhi to give up his position and power, despite being just the MP or one of the MPs of Congress? He still wants to rule, but not own up the presidentship because of the failures they are bound to face in the future too. Is the party ready to hand it over to Prashant Kishor? That is the big question. What role Prashant Kishor is going to play? He doesn't want to be involved in any kind of electoral politics. So what role Prashant is planning to play with the Congress is what the big question is. And nobody else but Prashant Kishor needs to answer. And I don't think it's a khayali pulao, like he was saying, that very premature, like Rajdeep said. I think these meetings have been going on for quite some time. We have seen how he met Sharad Pawar ji. He has been in touch with Captain Amarinder Singh. He has been in touch with Rahul ji and Priyanka ji and Sonia ji. The meetings have been happening. Harish Rawat ji has been involved. So I don't think this is something which has just developed or just happened. It has been going on over a period of a few months, and it's only now that PK has gone and met Mr. Rahul Gandhi.
Can this be a workable formulation the Gandhis as the trustees, Rahul Gandhi possibly as chairman of the board, and Prashant Kishor as the hands-on executive, the chief executive who kind of marshals it, or in the Congress is this like a stillborn idea?
You know, the word which was used by Rashid is right, wheels within wheels. This is a classic party of wheels within wheels. There is no Ahmed Patel now, so you don't have a political secretary, which Sonia Gandhi really relied on. So there are those who say, you know, could Prashant Kishor be, for starters, political advisor to the Congress president, whoever that's going to be. Presumably Rahul Gandhi will take that role. But I think there's a fundamental problem. There are two problems. One, Prashant Kishor has traditionally worked directly with an individual who becomes a brand in itself. Whether it's Narendra Modi, whether it's Jagan Reddy, whether it's Mamata Banerjee, and that individual takes all the decisions. The Congress, on the other hand, the ad hocism permeates right down the line. So the Prashant Kishor model may find it a little bit more difficult. Number two, and critically, the Congress today is actually two Congresses, the Sonia Congress and the Rahul Congress. And I believe that issue needs to be resolved. I think it's significant, and therefore I think it's more than just a khayali pulao that Sonia Gandhi was present at this meeting. You see, Sonia Gandhi being present at the meeting gives it a sense of, you know, a certain aura, a certain halo almost, because then congressmen start taking it seriously. But the fundamental issue which the Congress has not been able to resolve is who's in charge. You know, is it the Sonia Congress with the old guard in charge, or the Rahul Congress with the young in charge? We've already seen that even today, again, the Congress has differed on the issue of leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha. Who will be their leader in the Lok Sabha? There was talk till yesterday that it was going to be Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary to be replaced by someone else. They haven't taken the risk. Sonia by nature is risk averse, status quo is. Rahul wants to change everything overnight. Now Prashant Kishor will have to find a middle path. Now that's not going to happen overnight. That's why I said whatever will happen, in my view, will happen post-UP. In my view, the Congress has given up on UP. You know, it's very clear to me that they know that they are a marginal figure, and they know what they will eventually have to accept that role. The other states are important. Harish Rawat, do you send him to Uttarakhand? How do you solve your Punjab mess where Prashant has very clearly positioned himself with captain? There is small Goa again where the Congress is in a mess. So the Congress first needs to decide on it for itself, its own identity caught between, in a way, the Sonia model and the Rahul model. And then you can have Prashant Kishor.
What are you picking up? Is this actually going to lead to a radical shake-up of the Congress, or will it be much ado about nothing?
Rahul, what sources are saying is that it is an election exercise vis-a-vis the Congress, but I think it is something which, an idea that Prashant Kishor is trying to execute. He needed somebody who can bring people together. Now, 2019 election was a classic case where the opposition was terribly divided and the Congress, the principal opposition party, was terribly weak. And that is why Modi and the BJP did very well. Now, what his attempt is to bring opposition together. So he needed somebody who can act as somebody who can shepherd this unity. Now, in that, Sharad Pawar is the lone last figure standing who has a say beyond his own political party. So he met Sharad Pawar. The next step that suggested by Sharad Pawar was that there can be no opposition unity. As Rajdeep said, despite being weak, the Congress has a political significance. There can be no opposition unity without the Congress. Also because of the fact that opposition stays disunited because the Congress is the mother party of several political parties as far as regional players are concerned. There is a conflict between TMC and Congress, the YSRCP and Congress, and all others. And that is why the Congress needs to be around. Importantly, the formula of unity is not the classic coalition, Rahul, anymore. It is perhaps a Bengal formula where Rahul Gandhi and the Congress don't campaign and make things easier for the BJP to be defeated. Easier, not. But in state like UP, for example, say if the Congress ducks out of a contest, perhaps it leaves the field open for Akhilesh and Mayawati to take on the BJP. And perhaps that's the future of a coalition in terms of strategic coalitions in future, with the Congress playing a critical role. President elections, 2024 elections will depend a lot on if a strategic partnership can have arrived in UP.
Okay, we must remember though that Prashant Kishor has had an uneasy relationship with the Congress. After the party's failure in the 2017 assembly elections in Uttar Pradesh, Prashant openly criticized the grand old party style of functioning. His own political career as a Neta in the JDU didn't take off. Kishor is known to be fiercely ambitious. So in a moment, I'll get into part 2 of this debate. If Prashant Kishor were indeed to join the Congress, can he pull it off? Can he revive the grand old party? But before that, take a look at this report.
His name is being spoken in whispers. An air of mystery and enigma over what his next steps will be. Widely regarded as a master poll strategist, what will Prashant Kishor's next avatar be? That's the big buzzing political question before another big election season and the run-up to 2024. The political grapevines are abuzz that Prashant Kishor has been asked to join the Congress to revamp the party from the inside. But Kishor's experience with the Congress hasn't been a good one in the past. In 2017, when the Congress tied up with the Samajwadi Party for the UP elections that year, Prashant Kishor was shaping the Congress's poll strategy. But the alliance failed and Kishor could only draw consolation from the party's win in Punjab. Since then, Prashant Kishor has often criticized India's oldest party and its style of functioning. Kishor has said that the Congress is not open to working on ways suggested by people like him. He cautioned that the Congress must realize it has a problem and do something about it.
First, you have failed as a ruling party. The bigger crisis is that you are failing as an opposition as well. So forget about winning. First, you need to go back and listen that what is it which you are expected to do as an opposition.
An ambitious man, Prashant Kishor joined the Janata Dal United after scripting a victory for Nitish Kumar in the 2018 Bihar Assembly election. Kishor was touted as Nitish Kumar's political heir till he was sacked in January 2020. The reason for the Nitish-Prashant fallout was the strategist's stand on the citizenship law. Kishor had publicly criticized the law and called it a potential tool to harass the Muslim community. When questioned about Prashant Kishor's failed political stint, this is what Nitish Kumar had to say. Kishor is often credited with turning Narendra Modi into a political brand, from the 2012 Gujarat Assembly elections to the 2014 national election. Kishor had a hand in the BJP and the Modi-Shah success. In 2015, he brought together arch-rivals Nitish and Lalu for a grand alliance in the Bihar polls. The unlikely alliance won, and Kishor cemented his role as a strategist. Apart from the 2017 UP drubbing, Kishor has tasted success with every campaign he has handled. From Jagan Mohan Reddy in Andhra Pradesh to Arvind Kejriwal in Delhi, from Mamta Banerjee in West Bengal to MK Stalin in Tamil Nadu. He famously bowed out of the political consultancy world after the Trinamool's victory in Bengal earlier this year. But is he waiting for an opportunity to make his own political entry again?
क्या सोचते हो कि 10-15 साल बाद जब मोदी जी जाएंगे तो प्रशांत किशोर आएगा?
कहाँ पे?
देश नेशनल सेंट्रल
नहीं, हम लोग बहुत छोटे लोग हैं. मैं अभी पॉलिटिकल पार्टी मेरी नहीं है, मैं कोई पॉलिटिकल एक्टिविस्ट नहीं हूँ. दैट इज वेरी फार फेच्ड. आई वांट टू लर्न एंड एंजॉय डूइंग व्हाट आई एम डूइंग. टिल द टाइम आई एम डूइंग, आई मस्ट बी वन ऑफ द बेस्ट.
What will Prashant Kishor 3.0 look like? Bureau Report, India Today.
He's ambitious. He has a point to prove. He's got the chops. He's shown that in West Bengal. He's shown that with Jagan Reddy, with the DMK, in Punjab with Captain Amarinder Singh, with Chief Minister Narendra Modi in 2012, 2014, in that period. So if there were to be an alliance between Prashant Kishor and the Congress, can he pull it off? That's the question, and I want to ask Swati Chaturvedi. We don't know the answer just at this moment, but let's do a SWOT analysis as political pundits would. Do you believe Prashant Kishor has what it takes to revive the Congress party? Swati.
First thing, Rahul, that Congress has seen serial failure since 2014, and Prashant Kishor, except for that awful UP campaign, has seen serial success. He now has a Rolodex. He can call any leader in the opposition, and get an audience, get serious work happening. So even in terms of that, Prashant would be an asset to the Congress, because opposition leaders say they cannot talk to Rahul Gandhi. Sonia Gandhi is too remote to talk to now, with Ahmed Patel not there, and Priyanka Gandhi is supposed to be only handling UP. So they definitely need somebody who can at least speak to the opposition and try and help the Congress get their act together as an opposition force. Now, if Prashant Kishor is ambitious, he's got a reason to be. He's been extremely successful. Now, how that ambition will be taken in the Congress, because nobody else is allowed to be ambitious except the family in the party, is all of the stuff that we are going to be having reams of copy and reams of television shows about. But the Congress at this point desperately needs Prashant Kishor. If they've actually realized it, which it seems to be, because both the mother and both the siblings seem to be all together unitedly on board to get him in and to actually listen to his prescriptions. Because one of the complaints that Prashant Kishor had in UP was that Rahul and Priyanka wouldn't listen to him. They wouldn't follow what he was.
So he's openly ambitious in an ecosystem.
If they have changed, it'll be a huge deal for opposition unity.
So Prashant Kishor is openly ambitious in a culture where it's not considered okay for politicians to display their ambition. The only one who did in the recent past was Narendra Modi. It worked out well for him, but typically Indian politicians are supposed to keep their ambition hidden behind their kurta. Prashant Kishor is not that kind of a person. He's straight talking, straight shooting. Can he fit into the Congress? Because you have all these Congress walas, long time, some of them Dinesh, multi generations. तू कौन है भाई? तू कहाँ से आया? तू बताएगा कांग्रेस कैसे चलती है? यहाँ पे तो ऐसे ही होता है जी.
No, that Rahul, while that is taken, remember the Congress is a very durable brand.
Sure.
It needs reinvention. In that sense, it would be a huge challenge. Let's put it this way. It would be a huge challenge for Prashant Kishor. But I think Rahul Srivastav gets it, because I think what he says is this is a step-by-step approach. You meet Sharad Pawar, you discuss the possibilities of a wider opposition unity. You recognize that that's not possible without the Congress. You reach out to the Congress. You already have links with the Stalins, the Mamtas, the Jagan Reddys. You build this piece by piece. The first challenge possibly being next year's presidential election. Sharad Pawar has just issued a statement that I'm not in the race, but the fact is that the numbers do come in his way post UP. There is a possibility, and it's all strategic. At the moment, all these, even the plan for Uttar Pradesh or beyond is strategic. Try and ensure that wherever possible, don't have triangular or quadrangular contests where the opposition comes together. But that's not easy, right? In Uttar Pradesh, you've already got Asad Owaisi, who's going to fight 100 seats, he claims. Mayawati, we don't know what plan she has. She's certainly not part of Prashant Kishor's ecosystem. It's much easier, I maintain, for Prashant Kishor to work with smaller regional parties where there are individual satraps. The Congress at the moment first has to resolve its own identity crisis.
No, but he's burnt his hands with the Congress once.
He has, but look, as I said, where else does he go today? You've achieved what you have to at regional level. You can't go back to the BJP. You still want a role for yourself. The obvious role ahead of 2024 is, can I be this person who can strategically plan the opposition's politics for 2024? I find it fascinating that Sharad Pawar, who actually has a lot of contempt, I wouldn't say contempt, but is very skeptical of these political managers, gave Prashant Kishor time. Sonia Gandhi, who by very nature is very cautious, has also engaged with Prashant Kishor. Clearly, it suggests that there are possibilities that open up. But it is not, my point is, this is not an abracadabra. Prashant Kishor comes tomorrow and Congress revives itself. He will have to first get the organization right. This is not just about leadership and branding. It's also about an organizational fix. Now that Prashant Kishor can't do. That's going to have to be done by a series of leaders.
Rashid Kidwai, you understand the ins and outs of the Congress. Can an external party like Prashant Kishor survive? Will all these old guards allow him to make the kind of changes that are required to revive the Congress, or will it be a stillborn idea and they'll find some way of blocking his way at every turn?
Rahul, there is a degree of interest in the Congress because Prashant Kishor has been extremely successful. But temperamentally, they are very different. Prashant Kishor is hot on his heels. He has a lot of ideas. He wants to push that ideas in Congress. Silence is at premium. Loyalty is at premium. Not doing inactivity. The Congress excels in all these things. So therefore, I see that timing is the biggest problem. How do you sustain it from, July 2021 to sometime 2024? Only state elections can shape that journey. Now, state elections, there are a lot of problems. As I said, Punjab is a problem. Now, if he comes in, see, he's a free bird. He's a successful man. Congress wants him. But once he comes in, he will have a lot of problems. Just let me illustrate this. You see what is happening in Rajasthan. Apparently, the chief minister is not picking a telephone call from, AICC General Secretary. And High Command can do nothing. As Rajdeep keeps saying, there is no High Command. actually when the Congress is out of power? How do you enforce, how do you tame these, regional satraps who may be good for nothing, but they, in the Congress hierarchy, they are important. And that is where I think Rahul Gandhi has failed. That is where Sonia Gandhi is not being able to, break that stranglehold. I don't see how Prashant Kishor can do that. Of course, it is his call. Prashant Kishor's objective is very simple. He wants BJP, NDA to lose in every possible way. Can Congress help him with that? That is the question.
Rahul, from what you understand of the Congress, can the two work together? Because the Congress has a certain set of working or not working, and Prashant Kishor has a certain set of working, and he's he's confident, pushy, aggressive. How does that sit in with the Congress culture?
You see, the only instance, Rahul, where it's talked about that Prashant failed was in 2017 UP election. Now, there were two instances when I was there, when Prashant was there, and one of the key elements of that campaign unrolled. One was a rally near Kanpur, and there Prashant wanted a rally to start at a particular time, people to move in at one time, follow a certain route and do a certain thing. Didn't happen. Then there was that Varanasi rally in which Akhilesh and Rahul were supposed to be on the same truck. And at that, there was a hint given very clearly that do not use these areas. And those areas were used, and what really followed was eventually led to a certain degree of polarization in Varanasi. There is a difficulty. Prashant Kishor has few issues. One, he can bet on a stallion who has talent, who can run well, and who is ready to follow the commands given or the suggestions which are given. Not something as unwieldy as the Congress party. The Congress as a structure has become unwieldy. It cannot be made a running, winning machine quickly. So Prashant Kishor is not likely to come in and shape up the Congress. He can suggest a political structure in which one Modi can be beaten or perhaps Modi can be taken on. I think the exercise is going to be limited to that. Congress right now is a difficult game.
Khushbu Sundar, but is this in some senses a worst case scenario for the BJP if it were to come true? For example, if in West Bengal it's Mamata Banerjee versus BJP, if in Tamil Nadu it's DMK versus the AIDMK BJP, in Maharashtra it's all three parties together, Sena, Congress, NCP versus the BJP. If that were to extend itself nationally, that does make the challenge for the BJP much tougher than it was in 2014 or 2019.
Definitely not, Rahul. BJP is quite big enough and comfortable in its own shoes to be threatened by all the parties coming together. You look at the, the way the opposition parties, they've been trying to come together to oppose a party which has won people's love and affection over these last 7 years. 2019, they said BJP cannot come back to power, but we came back with a bigger force. In every place when PK has worked, whether it was Tamil Nadu, whether it was 2014, whether it was now Bengal elections, please let us understand there was a face value of the leader of the party. 2014, you had a huge fan following of our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji. When it comes to Bengal, you had a face called Mamata Banerjee. When it comes to Tamil Nadu, you had a face of M.K. Stalin, who had just taken over as the party president, and the emotional connection he has with the people belonging because he belongs to the DMK family.
So Rajdeep, Khushbu makes an important point. Stalin, Mamata Banerjee, Captain Amarinder Singh, Narendra Modi are big political brands. Rahul Gandhi is a failed political brand or a flop political brand. Can he then revive? Because one is to channelize Mamata Banerjee's energy, tell her, okay, don't get out of the car, don't start attacking those who are shouting Jai Shri Ram, and give her purpose and direction. The other is to actually turn around somebody who has a political image of a certain kind and then to try and turn him into a political stallion, as it were.
Look, in politics, never write off anyone. You never know what tomorrow brings. So I'm not going to sort of suggest that Prashant Kishor cannot, in some way sort of give Rahul Gandhi's leadership some kind of energy, impetus, sort of design, brand it better. That's all possible. My point is,
a producer can guide an anchor only to a certain extent and then no further.
No, absolutely. But I'm saying that the Congress's problem is elsewhere. You see, the Congress's problem is organizational. The Congress's problem is not just at the leadership, it's at multiple levels. My belief, therefore, is Prashant Kishor has to start slowly. I think step one is bring together as many opposition party leaders and at least work out, start inside parliament, outside parliament, start working together. You know, bridge some of the divide that continues to exist between a Sharad Pawar and the Gandhi family, for example. Try and find ways in which Mamta Banerjee and the Gandhi family can work together. You know, I would have seen a sign if Odir Chaudhary was removed. Mamta Banerjee is very clear. Mamta Banerjee believes that how do we ensure flow coordination with someone who day and night is abusing me in Bengal? And that was the belief under which there was an expectation that Odir would be removed. The fact is he's not.
No, so you are essentially wanting Prashant Kishor to play the role of Ahmed Patel. Now that's a very sensitive role. Can you give to an outsider the role which is so critical to how you think and how you act?
No, Ahmed Patel played multiple roles in the Congress for 40-45 years, but he also worked with Sonia Gandhi, whose, I believe, greatest skill was she understood her limitations. And she told Ahmed Patel, where I am limited, you play the role. Now we have leaders who are insecure at various levels in the Congress, perhaps believe if Odir is replaced by Shashi Tharoor, will Shashi Tharoor outshine our existing leadership? You see, you can't function like that. That's not the way a Prashant Kishor will be able to function. Today the Congress may see some opportunity, some benefit in getting Prashant to rebrand, but it's not a fix. It's not an overnight fix. You're right there. Mamta Banerjee did the hard yards. Let's be clear. No Prashant Kishor, no one eventually won the election for her in Bengal. She won it. It was her victory. No, but Narendra Modi. Eventually it was Mr. Modi and Brand Modi. But also with the RSS, the cadre. You know, we think political managers have a role, political strategists have a role, but their role is also circumscribed by the party structure they work within. It's not easy. I'm just saying that. I'm not suggesting that Prashant Kishor cannot help the Congress or cannot help opposition unity. But, Swati, but I don't see any overnight fixes the way it's being made out to be.
But the one challenge could be that the Congress and Rahul Gandhi have been a certain way. If PK were to come in and things were to change, then very quickly someone like Prashant Kishor could overshadow Rahul Gandhi, and that's something that RG and Sonia Gandhi might not be very comfortable with.
Well, that's absolutely right, Rahul, but I would disagree with Rajdeep when he says that the Congress problem is organization. It's a total crisis of leadership. The Congress has fought 2 general elections, Rahul Gandhi as their face, and they have failed. So, you know, in any other country, in any democracy, Rahul Gandhi would have had an alternate career by now. Clearly in India, clearly in the Congress, he is not. So, you know, Rahul Gandhi being overshadowed is currently the least of the Congress's concern. Rahul Gandhi and the entire Gandhi family need credibility as leaders because India has again and again rejected this family since 2014. So, you know, if Prashant Kishor can give brand Gandhi a reboot or, you know, brand Theo or whatever, then, you know, Gandhi should actually be grateful to him.
Well, but the fact is that politically, if you go out into rural India, more people know the Gandhi family even now than they do Prashant Kishor. So Prashant Kishor is a character who India Today audiences would identify with, and given what he's done, respect and like. But for him to actually go into a party, because I asked...
No, remember his other failure. Rahul Srivastav said one failure of UP. Bihar was a failure at the end of the day in terms of when he joined the JDU. Right? He joined the JDU, became, you know, wanted to virtually sort of become a parallel authority within the JDU. Didn't work. Nitish Kumar, you know, showed him his place. But Arvind Kejriwal, Prashant Kishor wanted to be convener of the Aam Aadmi Party after Delhi. Arvind Kejriwal said, no boss, this is my space. Please appreciate. Politics has certain... So Prashant is going to have to, if he wants to really make a go of the Congress party, I think it's easier for him to try and ensure that the Congress becomes part of a wider oppositional structure. Reviving the Congress is going to be a long-term challenge. The short-term fixes, can we strategically bring some of these opposition parties together?
Well, this was a fascinating conversation, okay? I have absolutely no idea at this moment of what will come of it. Neither do any of our pundits, frankly, but there is something cooking. Now, whether it just blows up or it's worthy of a finale of the MasterChef, we don't know just yet, but there is something definitely cooking. Prashant Kishor asked one of the top BJP leaders after the 2014 Lok Sabha victory, "Kal ke baad kya?" and the leader replied to say "Parso." He's held that against the BJP. He's held that against the big guns of the Bharatiya Janata Party, and he has a point to prove, which he did in West Bengal. He's done elsewhere too, but can he take it to the next level? The possibility is tantalizing. The route, though, is a difficult one to traverse. For the time being, Khushbu Sundar, Rashid Kidwai, Swati Chaturvedi, Rahul Srivastav and Rajdeep Sardesai for a very entertaining, very engaging, insightful conversation. Thank you. We will find out soon whether it was worth anything at all or not. I'll slip into a break. Coming up on the other side, Supreme Court serves notice to the Yogi Adityanath government for allowing the Kawar Yatra.